One of the most prolific talkers of all time was Mr. Jim Ross. He made some news this past week. He was pretty critical of Johnny Ace. We talked about on his podcast, Grilling JR, the developmental process with WWE, how OVW became a thing. Even before that, the Funkin' Dojos and Deep South, and of course now NXT. But we couldn't talk about that without talking about his successor for his position as the head of talent relations. And of course, Johnny Ace came up. And Jim Ross had this to say: I had a hard time as time went on trusting Laurinaitis. That's sad to say. I hired him. I gave him a job when he needed it. I didn't think he treated me quite right. He just wanted to show Vince that he was a better manager than JR and all these things. So now his ass is without a job and he deserves the goddamn misery that he's living, that I perceive he's living. And I didn't like how he treated me. Now, that quote went pretty viral. So when we taped again, the episode that folks are going to listen to tomorrow, and people have already got a sneak peek of, I said, "Hey man, do you regret saying what you said about Johnny Ace?" And he said, "Oh, I'm in it. I just don't believe that's how you repay somebody for their kindness. Here's a guy that was out of a job, had a young family. I hired him as my number two guy in my department. And how it ended up was typical chicken shit pro wrestling. Look, if the guy's a better manager than me and he signed more stars than I, then so be it. I don't believe that to be accurate. His goal, like a lot of the boys, was to get close to the boss." Well, you know Johnny Ace, you're pals with Jim Ross. What do you make of this uh moment of candor from Jim Ross about Johnny Ace?
Well, gosh, I know them both about the same. And once again, I know it all. So Jim Ross lost every bit of credibility with me in life, in spite of calling me the greatest wrestler of all time or whatever his induction and all the bullshit when he jumped on the dark side of wrestling. Because all he is starving for and leaning on life is to be relevant, because he ain't. And I will tell you this: what makes it disappoints me the most, and this is a very serious statement, when Russo and what was his buddy's name,
Ed Ferrara.
Ed Ferrara, when they mocked up Jim Ross and made fun of the Bell's palsy, I thought it was the worst thing I've ever seen in wrestling in my life. Forget anything I ever went through personally. It was the worst thing, and it's unforgivable. Unforgivable to make fun of someone's of a situation like that, which was, I can only imagine what it did to Jim's mind. So I can forgive Jim Ross for Dark Side of Wrestling, which I have, because there's nothing worth it. But I don't appreciate it. And Jerry Lawler texted me. I don't know how many people said, "What the fuck did Ross mean? We got to know when to walk away from Ric Flair." Huh. Well, the WWE learned when to walk away from Jim Ross. I'm going to the 30th edition, 30th reunion. You think he is?
Well, he's under contract somewhere else, so probably not.
You think he's getting invited?
I mean, I don't think it would be possible, but no, to answer your question, no.
Okay. Well, I was under contract at TNA and got my second ring. So if they want things to happen, to make them happen.
Yeah. I didn't know that
That's another podcast. You didn't hear what he said about me and Darkseid?
well, in fairness, I think there's more to that story. And I don't know that you and Jim have ever talked about that, but
Tell me. Let's discuss
Jim
it.
believes it was creative editing and that it was a gotcha moment. And I know that Jim didn't want to record again or do anything with the Tales from the Territory guys again, or the Dark Side of the Ring. And I actually tried to placate and say, well, listen, Tales from the Territories is a different thing. And it's not going to be about negative stories. It's going to be fun, easy stories. It's talking about Mid South.
Yeah, but what's that got to do with me?
No, I'm with you. I'm just saying Jim was upset with the way it came out because he says it wasn't the way that wasn't an accurate portrayal of the conversation.
You know what he said to me when I called him on it? He said, "I love you, Nate. Always have, always will."
What's wrong with that?
I said, what the fuck are you doing? That was his answer.
Hmm.
Not, hey, I'm sorry. And I'll tell you something else. You know, going back to these documentaries and how they can be hurtful.
Yeah.
When Jim Ross is talking about me dancing on the table and drinking and all that shit, but forgot to pay the IRS. You know why he knows about the IRS? Because he was the head of talent relations.
Yeah.
And that's supposed to be private when they garnished my wages. So you ask me what I think about Jim Ross. I have felt I've felt the pain of Jan like nobody else. I was there when he met Jan. So I know a lot of things a lot of people don't know. But shitting on me is not cool.
Well, I hate you feel that way.
Well,
I know that.
go back and read it. Pull it up. How would you
Well,
feel? How would you feel if he said it about you?
I'm with you, but again, and I feel like we're talking in circles here. I just want to make sure you understand. Jim says that's creative editing. That it was the way it was presented on TV is not the way it went down, and he was uncomfortable working with them in the future. And of course, I think they've smoothed all that out. But there were a lot of people who felt like, man, that's not really what I said. And I know that.
Did they smooth out the $500,000 I lost?
Well, I guess the question is, you
I,
you
well, I,
blame you
I,
blame Jim Ross, not necessarily the editors of the show. We've never discussed that. I'm just asking.
well, first of all, why did he say it? Why is he on the show? And you know what? You know how many people have called me and said we'd love to say something, but we don't want to hear something about ourselves.
Right.
How many phone calls do you think I got that for a year?
A lot.
Yeah, Rick, God, hey man, I'd say something, but fuck, I don't want them jumping on me.
Yeah.
So a convicted felon in trouble with the IRS, arrested for domestic violence twice, get to say shit about me 22 years later. I lose $500,000. It almost causes me to get divorced. If you don't think I hit Wendy and her kids, what do you think my grandkids thought of that? Hello? Hey,
Just
you're part of the
listening.
family. What do you think? What do you think? You don't think that runs through my mind every day?
Sure.
To this day, it runs through my mind. Jericho telling me he knew nothing about it. Yet he's the editor, director. They're all
I know
no,
what you mean. I think he's the producer, but
they're all fucking lucky that I'm a better man than them because I got the story on all of them. I just don't tell it. I could have this fucking podcast breaking every record. We'd be running numbers like NFL football if I tried telling stories.
yeah, I'm in an awkward spot here, man. Who else do you want to fuck with today? It's Ric
No,
Flair shit list with me.
no. Well, you keep bringing the names up. I just got an answer for you.
Well, I was asking about Johnny Ace and Jim Ross, and boy, we took a hard left turn there. But
Well, because I don't know how Jim Ross could be hot at anybody. You know, Jim used to walk around just basically beating Vince's brains out. But at the same time, Jim Ross will always be my favorite announcer. I'm not diminishing his skills. I'm not like Eric saying I was no good at anything. I'm telling you, Jim was the fucking best. But I also thought he was one of my best friends.
it hurts
A
your feelings.
friend doesn't do that.
Yeah,
Jim Ross he and Gordon Soley and Oakland and all different styles are the three greatest announcers of all fucking time.
we agree.
In all my 70 years of watching it, seeing it, from Marty O'Neill, name it, those three are the three greatest, all different styles. But Jim Ross he is, I mean, I have so much respect for him. I wanted him to have that equal amount of respect for me in real life. He didn't.
Well, I'm sorry you feel that way, but I think he does. I think it's a misunderstanding.
Ah, well, doesn't matter. It's over now.
Yeah.
Whether it's creative editing or not, he said it. Why?
Well,
Why?
we took a hard left turn there, and You're going to be taking a hard left turn in your brand new camper. I'm excited to introduce you to
No,
the new family
we're gonna
opportunities.
start running. We're gonna start running NFL numbers here, brother. But
I think to use a Ric Flair phrase, this is
next week it's the Chiefs and the Bengals.
I
17 million views.
I don't know how we top this next week, but I
Oh,
know
we
that,
will. We will. Let somebody open their goddamn mouth.
I mean, after you giving shots to Eric Bischoff and Jim Ross, who I both co-host with,